Hello, welcome back. We are on day 13 and talking about alitis. Alitis is a very interesting word because it can be a very negative word. It can also be a positive, endearing attribute of someone. It's a word that has this fascinating duality where tone and context are central to understanding it correctly. Its primary meaning is negative, meaning a vagrant or a troublemaker or someone from the streets who has no respectable place in society. You can also use it for somebody who behaves really badly, really under his standard or under any human social standard. So when on the street somebody drives really badly and he cuts you off and so on, you can say this is an alitis. This is somebody who is so low that he's not worth of consideration as a civilized person. So obviously this is quite offensive. It's an insult. However, it is a very popular and common to use it in another way as a charming rascal, a lovable rogue, a free spirit who flouts convention. And when used affectionately in this way, often with a smile and a sigh, it describes someone who is perhaps a little bit irresponsible and rebellious and lives by their own rules, but possesses an irresistible charm and perhaps even a heart of gold. I'm thinking now, if you have seen Gone with the Wind, the character of Red Butler would be an alitis in this sense, perhaps. This type of alitis is a classical archetype in Greek culture, the man who will break your heart, but whom you can't help but love for his wild and untamable spirit. There is also a historical background to this. Kleftis is another word, means thief today, but in old times it was a positive word because during the Turkish occupation there were these kleftes who were people in the mountains, outlaws in the mountains, and they were actually the good guys. They were the people fighting for freedom because they were lawless people by the definition of the occupying force, but they were patriots fighting for freedom in the eyes of the oppressed population. And this has often been the case in Greece, that the population has been suppressed in some way by its leaders. It was later the case also with the dictatorship. And it is often still today seen sometimes that the political classes, the big political parties, are just there to take advantage of the people, and that the people have a right to oppose the government, to not pay taxes, for example, right? When you hear that Greece has all these problems with finances, with paying taxes, with forcing people to obey, there is a history to that, and the history is that very often the normal people have been the victims of governments who have taken away their money and then just used it to build their private villas or to send their children abroad for study. And so people are deeply suspicious of governments, and whatever government this is. And so this idea of the alitis also plays into that. Somebody might be an alitis because he does something that is formally forbidden or frowned upon by fine society. But then there is this feeling that most of us are not this kind of fine society. We are the suppressed ones. We are the folk. We are the people. And this alitis is perhaps one of us rather than being one of them. And his bad behavior is actually something that qualifies him as one of us, that makes him authentic in this role. So here's a piece of text that shows you how to use this. My daughter brought her new boyfriend home for dinner. He arrived late on a motorcycle wearing a leather jacket and a mischievous grin. He hadn't brought flowers, but he had brought a rare wild orchid he'd found on a hike. He charmed my wife, made me laugh, and told stories of traveling with no money. Later that night, my wife turned to me and said, "He's a complete alitis." She didn't say it with anger, but with a shake of her head and a reluctant smile. She meant he was a wanderer, a rule breaker, completely unsuitable on paper, but she also saw his undeniable charm. So here are some more examples. In negative, you could say, "Η αστυνομία συνέλαβε δύο αλήτες." The police arrested two alitis, για την κλοπή, for the theft. Or in the affectionate form, ο παππούς μου ήταν ένας μεγάλος αλήτης. My grandfather was a great alitis, a rogue, στα νιάτα του in his youth. Πάντα έμπλεκε σε περιπέτειες. He always έμπλεκε, was caught up in περιπέτειες. Peripetia is the adventure. He was always caught up in adventures. So thank you. That was it for today. And I will see you again tomorrow for another entry in our series of Advent calendar expressions in Greek. Bye-bye.